God damn, look at me. Just woke up, I'm in my jammies. I've got 5 hours before work to do whatever I want, yet if I let myself, I would lay in bed and sleep until then.
But I want to do something productive. I want to do something fun. But I can't. Have you ever lost your passion for your creativity or for the things that you enjoy? I have. In fact, it's happening to me right now.
I've always been a creative person. Growing up, I loved anything that allowed me to make something out of nothing. I remember my first experiences with the Warcraft 3 world editor. It felt like I had ultimate power. When games like Minecraft and Terraria rolled around, I couldn't help but make a few mods and spent countless hours making some new adventure map or minigame. As I got older, I dabbled in making a few of my own games. The summer after I graduated high school, I tried my hand at writing and wrote my first book and then another one a few months later.
During my teenage years, I was always working on some ambition or creating anything I could think of. I was always excited for whatever game would keep me up till 3 a.m. playing it or reading through the forums. But then, it stopped.
These days, my interest in video games feels sporadic and off. Occasionally I'll feel ecstatic about a particular game, but most of the time I feel complacent or even frustrated with the thought of playing any game, even ones I've spent so much of my life enjoying. This feeling is echoed in my other creative outlets like writing and music. I know that this is a shared sentiment among a lot of people, but the feeling of scrolling through my Steam games list for hours on end is a really harrowing thing once I sit and reflect on it.
It just feels wrong.
I have spent thousands of hours inside of games, and thousands of hours creating random projects that I felt passionate about, but I found myself at a point in my life where it all feels not worth the trouble.
I think there's many reasons for why someone would lose passion. I want to use this video to investigate why it's happening to me and to propose some solutions. In turn, I will hopefully help others understand why it's happening to them and what they can do to solve it. Before we begin, let's define what passion is. The definition I'll be using for this video is an intense desire or enthusiasm for something. This is what I feel I have lost in recent memory. So I spent some time thinking and researching. I came up with the 4 major factors for why I feel I have lost passion over the years. I separated them into 2 categories: simple factors and complex factors. Do note that each term, simple or complex, refers to the depth of conversation required to address the topic and not the ease of solution. As a result, the complex factors are a much larger portion of this video.
The factors are as follows. For simple factors, we have loss of interest due to overindulgence and changes in personality. For complex factors, we have loss of or a deep sense of questioning purpose and emotional barriers and association. We're going to start with the simple factors category.
Loss of interest due to overindulgence happens when you've simply done too much of one thing over the course of a short amount of time or even your entire lifetime. I think we'd all like to say that we can play our favorite game or create the same kind of work for years and years and never get bored of it, but that's not always the reality. Many things will get boring after enough time, and that's just part of the human experience.
And then there's changes in your personality. This is a simple way of saying something very broad. So many things can go into changing your personality, and so many outcomes can result from it. Therefore, this factor is here to catch many of the extraneous reasons for why passions come and go. Sometimes we change, we grow up, or we realize something fundamental about ourselves, or we go through something that impacts us in a massive way. The result of that can be small or large, but it can most definitely change your interests and passion.
The solution to both of these factors is rather simple to state, but a bit ambiguous. When our personality changes, or we get bored with what used to excite us, I don't think that we've actually lost passion. I think what has happened is that we've changed or we've grown and we want to do something new. If either of these are the cause of your loss of passion, I would argue that you can find your passion again in new things, in different things. Try writing something weird, try playing a new instrument, try playing a new game, go outside.
I know this is a simple answer with a pretty ambiguous set of actions to follow, but I think it's a good enough answer for me. So let's move on to the topics with a bit more complexity to their answers. Loss of or a deep sense of questioning purpose. This problem carries with it a lot more than just a lack of passion, but in my experience, a lack of passion almost always arises when I feel without purpose. This one is especially tricky because I know that in my life it has been both a symptom and a cause of what many of us often call depression. The problem with lumping the two together is that the solutions for clinical depression are different than the solutions for someone who feels they are lacking purpose. But the symptoms often look so similar because depression has become a culturally accepted catch-all term for an individual who's feeling shitty, or empty, or repressed, or frustrated, or sad, or lethargic, which are also often associated with a person who feels like they are lacking purpose. A lot of people don't understand the difference, and so finding solutions is much more difficult. As an example, if you confuse a lack of purpose with depression, you might try treating your symptoms by eating better, exercise, sleeping more or less, or some other physiological tool to treat the imbalance. But at the end of the day, you still feel like you have no reason to do anything. Conversely, if you are clinically depressed but think that the problem is you have no purpose, then searching and searching for purpose will be ultimately pointless if you aren't fixing the imbalance in your brain. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to make claims about what a random stranger on the internet should do to solve their clinical depression. Instead, I'm going to focus on those who believe they are lacking purpose.
When we find ourselves questioning our purpose or why we're doing anything at all, life gets a bit tricky. We still find moments of satisfaction, but generally we'll fall back into this sense of unease. It's a quiet yet undeniably present question. Why the hell am I doing anything at all? This question can arise from many things. Maybe the life we once lived isn't actually what we wanted, or some significant change has happened in our life, or maybe we've just slipped into a state of stagnation. For me, I've lost purpose through personal change. I've grown and become a different person than I once was. And as a result of that, although I have dreams that I would like to reach one day, I don't really have a good direction of where I'm going. I don't feel like I'm really working towards anything that I actually want.
This lack of feeling without purpose manifests by making games and my creative outlets feel empty and without enjoyment. Certainly, there are still some dopamine hits to be found, but the overall experience just leaves me deeply unsatisfied. Even the smallest bit of frustration quickly turns into me leaving any game I'm playing. I don't have any drive or passion to see anything through. This is also very evident with creative ideas that I have. I never try to see if I can overcome any challenge. Instead, I just give up, because what's the point anyways? Why the hell am I doing anything at all? When we are searching for purpose but can't seem to find it, I think what happens is that we try to find satisfaction in the short term. Since purpose is generally something that we think will provide us with a sense of elongated meaning, we'll be able to exist in each moment feeling at least neutral. But when I am constantly searching for and don't have any defined purpose, I have an underlying sense of dissatisfaction. I can't just be content, I'm uncomfortable. This drives me to search for any small moment to give me just a hit of satisfaction, but it makes the things that I once enjoyed turn into a dopamine farm. Instead of enjoying a game because I'm enthralled with the story or its mechanics, instead of getting excited about a project because of what it might turn out to be, I'm just looking to stop being uncomfortable.
But with that all in mind, let's take a break from purpose and look at the next factor: emotional barriers and associations. When you make the decision to sit down and make something creative or to play a game, you generally have an assumption about how it's going to make you feel. Unless you've got some kind of goal, you generally do this thing because you know it's going to make you feel good. It's fun. You enjoy doing it. It makes you feel fulfilled or satisfied. But what happens when you sit down and your assumptions don't meet the reality? Or conversely, what happens when you have an assumption about the experience when in reality the experience has a lot of joy to give you? In both cases, our assumptions about the experience are altering our current or future behavior. In the first case, we assumed it would be fun, but maybe got a really dull writing session in. There was no creative spark or inspiration. How then does that change the way we see this activity in the future? And in the latter case, we passed up a good experience because we assumed it would be a bad one. In both cases, these assumptions aren't just thoughts. They're feelings. Before writing, I rarely ever sit down and just think about the experience that is writing a book. I don't think about the frustration of not writing enough or the dissatisfaction with my own rhetoric. I feel it. I've started to associate writing with that feeling. I don't just sit down and think that Apex Legends is just 20 minutes of running around finding loot and then dying for some bullshit reason. I feel it. What's happening is that my assumptions about these activities are turning into my feelings. My feelings then are changing my behavior. This is called an emotional barrier. It's created through emotional association. So to connect this back to passion, what's happening is that your passion is slowly being chipped away as you create more and more negative associations with the things that you once loved. Instead of understanding that an experience is usually more nuanced, meaning that it has both good and bad feelings associated with it, we start to only put the negative experiences in our memory. We assume or think or feel that an experience is going to go a certain way, usually negative. Most people don't have passion for things that make them feel shitty, or for things that they think, assume, or feel are going to make them feel shitty. But hold on. Apex Legends is just me running around for 20 minutes getting loot and then dying for some bullshit reason. Isn't that a valid thought or feeling to have about the game? Sure, that's what happens. Sometimes. But this perspective is hyper-focused on the negatives. Not every game of Apex Legends is based around that structure.
Unfortunately, the human brain fixates on negatives over positives. As an example, if you spend 3 hours playing the trumpet and you're having a good time, but then you end up with chafed lips by the end of it, I would argue that in my experience, I remember the cracked lips more than the fun of playing the instrument. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance here, but if I understand the human brain correctly, this is how our brain prioritizes memories. Negative experiences are by default weighed more than positives, meaning our brain puts more resources into remembering the negatives than the positives. But if we're constantly only considering the negatives of how an experience makes us feel, then why would we ever want to do it? How do we get rid of all that junk association in our brain? Well, we're about to get to that.
Let's take a step back and remember what we said about purpose.
Without purpose, we usually end up without passion. This is because instead of doing something with what we would hope is meaning, we are simply trying to find that next dopamine hit.
We are trying to get out of the discomfort of living without a purpose. Why the hell am I doing anything at all? So what happens is when you're searching for that dopamine hit, you're not in the mindset of being present. Instead, I will usually find myself making decisions based upon how I feel. I am like an addict. I don't care how I get it, just give me the dopamine now. I am uncomfortable, make it stop. But over time, I've created these negative associations with everything I've gone to for that dopamine in the past. It's now all associated with frustration or boredom because my mind puts more weight on those experiences than the positive ones I had. Now it seems pretty obvious why I've lost my passion, doesn't it? Why in the hell would I ever want to do anything in this state of mind? Constantly searching for something to give me dopamine while also feeling like everything that once did is now negative and boring. Alright, so how do we fix this? Well, let's start looking at some solutions. The key here is to change that state of mind. In both cases, your presence and state of mind is out of whack. Without perceived purpose, your mind is telling you to get any kind of satisfaction right now to get out of the discomfort of living without purpose. And when your mind associates negative feelings with the things that once brought you joy, your state of mind can't be swayed to enjoy anything. So how do we fix this? Well, finding purpose probably seems like the most obvious solution to the first case. But I would argue that not only is it very difficult for many people to find purpose, it's also not the real solution here. There are other ways of alleviating that discomfort without finding some grand purpose for yourself. But we'll get to that in a bit. Similarly, removing those negative associations from your state of mind can return the passion to the things that you once loved. But again, it's not the easiest thing to do. As a result, I'm going to propose two solutions. A specific solution that can be practiced right now, in the moment, to try and enjoy the things that you once did. And then follow it up with a more ambiguous solution that can hopefully help you find your passion again in the long term.
The first solution requires you to take a breath, think about where you're physically at, and experience it. Practicing mindfulness is a powerful way of getting out of that elongated sense of existence. By this I mean that our minds generally see time as this long ethereal thing that extends backwards and forwards till the beginning and ends of our lives. But in reality, this isn't true. The only moment that should matter right now is this moment right now. So to remove the need for purpose, and also to get rid of the things we once felt, you need to get yourself out of seeing things as past, present, and future. Instead, try your best to see things as only now. And this isn't supposed to be easy. The most effective method I have found for bringing myself into the moment is a technique found in the last episode of Midnight Gospel. The show describes how to be present through feeling your own presence. Close your eyes and focus on your right arm. Feel the presence of your hand and fingers. Recognize that it is there. Now do this with your left arm. Now your legs, your chest and stomach. And finally, your mind. Ignore the thoughts in your mind. Focus on this underlying sense of being here, right now. This is what reality feels like. Now open your eyes and look around. Experience what is around you. Don't think about it, look into it. Let yourself fixate on the details and patterns, but not for too long. If this technique doesn't work for you, that's okay. There's so many videos out there on how to be present. This is in essence meditation, but being mindful and meditation are separate things. I would recommend practicing both, particularly when you want to do something but just can't seem to imagine that anything is going to be fun.
When you find that you have lost your passion, clear your mind and find the moment. In this way, you will have also found your passion. Alright, so finally let's get to the long-term solution for loss of passion. This solution is twofold. First, we need to figure out how to get on track to dealing with our search for purpose. Then, we have to not only work through all the junk associations in our head, but also prevent that from happening again in the future. So let's start by throwing a wrench in this whole purpose thing. What is purpose? Purpose is, well, whatever we want it to be, really. But it's also a great way to get stuck in a certain set of behaviors or ways of thinking. We can define one for ourselves or feel like we've searched long enough to find what we really enjoy. But what does it really do for us? Well, what it does is it gives us a sense of security. It gives us a sense of identity. It makes us feel like we're working towards something meaningful. But to do so, we're making a certain claim about ourselves. We're making a certain assumption. We are saying, this is the thing that will make me happy then and now. It will bring me fulfillment for the rest of my life. But is this true? And if it is, can we even be sure we picked the right thing? Is there really one thing that will bring us fulfillment and happiness for the rest of our lives? And can we be 100% certain about it? Personally, I don't believe there is. I think that the true importance of purpose is finding meaning in each moment. This means that each moment is as important as any other moment. This is what I'm learning to define as purpose. But don't take it from me. Here are some quotes from a video on purpose by Sadhguru, someone I often look to for wisdom when I'm feeling lost.
See, if you had a purpose and if you fulfilled it, after that what would you do? The greatest thing about life is that there is no meaning to it. This is the greatest aspect of life, that it has no meaning to it and there is no need for it to have a meaning. It is the pettiness of one's mind that it is seek a meaning. Your thought and emotion has become far more important than your life, isn't it so? Isn't it so? So because of this, you're seeking a purpose as an escape from the trap that you have set for yourself.
This quote in particular touches on why I believe a lack of passion arises from a supposed lack of purpose. We believe that we need a purpose, and so we keep searching for one. We keep wondering where it is. We bring that discomfort onto ourselves. We keep asking ourselves relentlessly, why the hell am I doing anything at all, when in reality we should be telling ourselves, this moment is as important as any other moment ever will be. Sadhguru goes on to say,
You're identified with the trap, you like it. You like it because it gives you a certain sense of safety and security and protection and individual identity. When it protects you, you like it. When it restricts you, you do not like it. Those who find a purpose in their life, they become so conceited. They will live within their own trap forever, thinking that they're doing the most fantastic thing. First thing you need is balance. If you have balance, then you can climb. If you don't have balance, it's better you stay on the ground, isn't it? Don't look for a purpose, because if you look for a purpose, you're seeking madness. If you find one, you are sure mad.
So, as Sadhguru states here, the first thing to work on is balance. In order to experience each moment as it ought to be experienced, and to get rid of those junk associations, you need clarity of mind. This is what I consider to be balance. But this comes from both internal and external factors. External things would be like the environment you exist within, the people you surround yourself with, and the physical activity that you put yourself through. Internal factors would be things like your self-confidence, the way that you talk to yourself in your head, and how you regard yourself both socially and internally. All of these things are not the easiest things to change, and I'm not trying to make that claim. But I have 100% certainty that anyone who finishes this video should be able to practice at least bettering one of these things. Once you've got a good sense of balance, you can start dismantling your psychological structure. The psychological structure is your protection, but it is also your jail. It is the patterns and behaviors that you've developed as you've become a human being. It is the things that you fall back on when you feel sad or scared. In order to grow as a human being, or to regain something we've once lost, we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. That is why balance is so important. If we are unbalanced when we make ourselves vulnerable, just like a climber who is unprepared for a really hard climb, we may fall back down to the bottom. In order to prepare ourselves for this vulnerability then, it is crucial that we have balance of mind. Ultimately, life is about experience. Life is about choosing to do things and then being okay with what happens. It's also about knowing that you will be okay with whatever happens. This is both the vulnerability and the capability of living in this way. Passion follows when I allow myself to stop thinking in terms of past and future. It is present when I am present, and this is the key to regaining your passion. Finally, to put it even more succinctly, your purpose holds you to your future, while your negative associations hold you to your past. To overcome both, you must only live in the present. This is how you become passionate again.
The purpose of life is to live, and to live totally. To live totally does not mean party every night. To live totally means, before you fall dead, every aspect of life has been explored. Nothing has been left unexplored.
Anyways, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I put a lot of work into it. If you'd like, go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell. I'm going to be doing a lot more streaming in the week after this one, so follow me at twitch.tv/whatdrake and check me out sometime. I really appreciate you watching. Hope you have a good one. Thanks.